All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about the next unit as we go into semester 2. Okay, so unit 4 is all about functions and it leads into graphing. Okay, so this video is all about the idea of what a function actually means and like an equation format versus a function format kind of thing. So the first thing you need to know is that a function, the actual like definition is that it's a relationship between two different variables. Okay. And that's kind of what makes things different than the stuff we did last semester. Last semester was all about solving equations and using those equations to get an answer, right? X equals 2, X equals 5, whatever it is. But most of the equations we did last semester, they only had one variable. Now we're going to start looking at how can two different variables connect? In other words, like how is X related to Y or whatever the variables are? And there's really kind of two formats that you'll see in this class, and they're pretty much the same thing as far as this class is concerned. So like the first one is just like the equation format, okay? And the equation format is where it's just like using both variables. So like y is equal to 3x plus 4, okay? It's an equation, right? But the equation has two different variables, and we're able to solve for whichever one we want, okay? Versus this is probably a new part that you have not seen before, something called function notation. Okay? And this idea of function notation looks a little bit strange. It looks like this. Instead of using y equals, we kind of replace the y with f of x. That's how you would pronounce that. F of x. And we say equal, and let's just use the same other piece. 3x plus 4. Now, as far as this class is concerned, these are pretty much the same exact thing. Right? Equations versus function notation. It's the same thing, just one uses y, the other one uses f of x. As you get into more advanced math classes, there are some slight differences, but I'm not going to get into those right now. So I just want to make sure you guys know the difference between these two things. The general idea with the function notation, because that's the kind of the new one, is that this value in here, that's essentially your input. Think of this like a machine, like a vending machine, right? A vending machine has an input and an output. You input money and out comes food or drinks or whatever it is. Okay? So you plug something in and then something else comes out. Now the nice thing with function notation is that it tells you exactly where you put that value. Okay? Let's do a quick example. Once you see it, it's really not too bad. Scroll down a little bit. And let's just use that same example we just read up there. Okay, so let's say, for example, f of x is equal to 3x plus 4. Okay, then like a standard question would be, if that's f of x, then what is f of, I don't know, let's go with 2. Okay, so essentially it's telling us to use the f function, which that's what we have. All right, so using the f function, what happens when you replace x with a 2? Okay, so if we write that out, instead of x, we're going to plug in 2. What that means is that wherever x was, you replace it with a 2. Okay, that's the nice thing about function notation. It's telling you exactly what you should do. Replace x with a 2. Well, let's do that over here. So 3, replace x with a 2. And then we simplify. Okay, order of operations says multiply first. So 3 times 2 gives you 6. And then 6 plus 4 gives you 10. Okay, so in other words, f of 2, oops, sorry, put 2 there. F of 2 is equal to 10. That would be the answer to that question. Okay, but knowing that this is the f function, they could ask you a bunch of different questions. They could say, what's f of 3? What's f of 5? F of negative 6? Whatever they want. Okay, we just keep using the same function over and over until we use a different one. Okay, that's the idea behind these function notations, right? So then I could also ask, let's do another one. So using this same function, so still using this same f function, what is f of negative 1? We just repeat the process. It's tied to the same question, so we're still using the same f of x. Okay, so we're still going to plug in negative 1 to that 3x plus 4. Okay, so f of negative 1 is equal to 3, and then replace x with a negative 1. And then we do the same thing. Okay, so order operations, the multiplication happens first. So 3 times negative 1, negative 3. Bring down that 4. And negative 3 plus 4 gives you 1. So in other words, we're saying that f of negative 1 is positive 1. Okay? But notice that we used the same function for two different questions. Okay? Now the classic kind of question that shows up on tests and quizzes all the time is they give you a list of all sorts of different functions. So let me show you what I mean. Let me scroll down one more time. Okay, so for example, let's say they give you a list of 3 different functions. So first one, let's say f of x is equal to negative 2x plus 1, but then they want to give you another function. So we kind of just use a different letter of the alphabet. So f of x, we could say g of x. Now it would be something different, right? So it would be 5x plus 3. And we could even do a third one, h of x. Let's say that's x squared minus 3. So the actual letter f, not too important. It's that general structure. So this top one is the f function, the middle one is the g function, and the h is the h function. Okay? So using this information, then they can go and ask you a bunch of side questions. Okay? So here's where you guys come in. I want you guys to do these 3 on your own, and then we'll check your work. Okay, so A, I want to know what is g of 2. For part B, I want to know what is f of negative 2. Okay, and C, be careful, this one is kind of the tricky one, the tricky x squared part. What is h of negative 3? Okay, so at this point, pause the video, try all 3 of those, and see what you can come up with. And then when you have all 3 answers, press play and we can check your work. All right, so answering part A, it says g of 2. So we're going to use the g function. So we're using the middle one. Okay, so we know it's 5x. So instead of x, we're plugging in 2. And then plus 3. Okay, essentially I'm using this one. Okay, and then simplify. Okay, 5 times 2 gives you 10. 10, bring down that positive 3. And 10 plus 3 gives you 13. So g of 2 is 13. Okay. Part B, it's asking for a different function. So for part B, we're using this top one. Okay. And we're going to plug in negative 2. So negative 2 instead of x, plug in negative 2, and then plus 1. Okay. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. And positive 4 plus 1 is 5. So f of negative 2 is 5. Okay. And then the last one that was kind of tricky was h of negative 3. So we're asking to use the third function. So be careful because it says x squared. So here's how that would work. Instead of x, put a parentheses. Okay, we're plugging in negative 3. Let's put that inside there. But then it was x squared, so let's put that squared on the outside of that parentheses, and then the minus 3. So a little bit different than the other ones. Negative 3 squared means negative 3 times negative 3, okay, and that gives you 9. And then 9 minus 3 gives you 6. So just be a little bit extra careful when there's exponents involved. The answer there, h of negative 3, is 6.